Welcome to the Charleston Chicks Podcast, where life gets better, bolder, and a little bit bonkers. We're three fierce, fabulous, and 50-something women who've been there, done that, and got the battle scars and laugh lines to prove it. Think of us as your go-to girlfriends, dishing out real talk on friendship, love, career, and connection. Because let's be honest, life after 45 is where the magic really happens. From navigating reinvention to new careers, dating, marriage, and surviving hot flashes with style, we're here to laugh, share, and dive deep into all the messy, magical moments of midlife. So grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and let's dive into the conversations you actually want to have. Because at this stage, we're not holding back, and neither should you. Welcome to the Charleston Chicks Podcast. Today, we are diving into an online conversation that's gone viral across TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, centered on the British Vogue article written by Shantae Joseph. Shantae's article asks the provocative question, is having a boyfriend embarrassing now? With more women single than ever, we're unpacking what's really driving this trend and why so many women are opting out of relationships that lack emotional depth, accountability, and real support. Let's get beneath the viral moments and headlines to examine the genuine frustrations behind the shift and the rising standards that women are setting, and the new normal for what a healthy relationship truly looks like.
So I'll start.
Let's go.
So, according to statistics, a record 52% of American women are unmarried or separated as of 2021. And with this trend, it forecasts that 45% of women aged 25 to 44 potentially will be single by 2030, which is like 4 years away. So, but I want to say it's not about women not wanting love or intimacy, because we're wired for that. But speaking from my own personal experience as heterosexual Gen X woman, I think we grew up socialized that relationship is an ideal, and it's like a place of worth. We get our, we are told that that's what we should want out of life, and becomes part of our identity. And I think it's interesting that heterosexual women report the lowest rates of satisfaction in their relationships versus their, male partners. And so I think we're seeing a real cultural shift. And the title was interesting, but the article itself, I think, speaks to a lot of deeper things that are going on in our culture, women in particular.
Well, what do you think some of those things are?
Well,
let's just go.
Well, I think that the title of is having a boyfriend embarrassing is certainly provocative, but it's not that. We women want to have a partner who meets them where they are. And if we've had this cultural shift from Gen X to whatever the current generation of women is now, whatever they're called, not sure, that we saw our mothers doing the very traditional roles. And then I know I entered into a fairly traditional relationship, except for I worked full time during my whole marriage. But I also did all the other things. All the women contribute so much emotional labor into keeping a marriage and a partnership together. And if you have children in the mix, it becomes like 10x that. And we're just exhausted by that.
I agree. I think the lack of emotional depth has become so much wider. The gap has become so much wider than it ever has, that women just aren't being met emotionally the way they need to be. A man is happy with physical. Women, we need emotional. We need the emotions. We need the deep talks.
we need them to be our best friend and our supporter. Not best friends like you all, but as close as we can be. And I think that for so long, women have settled, and because that's what we've been taught to do. Yes. We've been taught that just be happy with it. Just be happy with what you've got. Just be grateful for it. Well, you know what? They should be grateful for us. I mean, we're in a different place. I support myself. I support my children. I own a home. Things that women couldn't do on their own 50 years ago. And we've evolved so much, but men have not evolved in the same for the most part. Now, Jen's got an entirely different story, and it's awesome.
Thank you. So why do you think, in your opinion, men have not evolved?
I think that men have been taught from an early age that emotions are not okay. Crying is not okay. You're supposed to be the strong man. You're supposed to take care of everything. And so now there's this funny in-between of, it's not funny, but this in-between of the men are no longer having to take care of everything because women are rising, but their emotional maturity hasn't evolved along as with us evolving in careers and in life and the things we're all doing now.
So I'm interested in knowing, all three of us have sons.
Yes.
You have two, you have one, I have two. So do you think that we have a responsibility to teach our sons this new way?
Oh, yes.
100%.
Absolutely.
I've had this conversation with my son.
All right, tell us about it.
I had this conversation with my son last night.
Okay.
where about this article that we were going to be discussing, and he saw the marriage and the dynamic that his parents were in.
And you were married for 25 years.
Married for 25 years.
So that's a very long time. Very impressive.
Yes. Very, very long time.
But is it impressive, or is it staying in something that doesn't serve you because that's what we were taught?
Both. I think it's both, to be honest. He saw that, and I've been very transparent with my kids, they're adults, about things so that they can learn from maybe the mistakes their dad and I made. Mm-hmm. And so we've talked about what that looked like and how the dynamic that did not serve our relationship. Part of that was all of the things that I took on and the self-sacrifice I made in my marriage that did not serve the relationship, served me personally. And we also talked about that article and showing up now, what women need now. Mm-hmm. I think he's Gen Z.
I don't know.
I think he's Gen Z. Anyway, he is very emotionally available, and that's a beautiful thing. He, wants to be partnered in life at some point. He's still fairly young, and I want to raise him to be a good partner to what a woman today needs. And I think, hopefully he has to, grow up still, a lot of growing up. Men take a little longer. And, but yeah, it's very transparent conversations around this. What about you and yours?
Absolutely. We talk about this often. I still have one at home, and we have conversations all the time about this and about how to be not a good boyfriend, because anybody can be a good boyfriend, but to be a good partner, a true and real partner who shares in everything, who is emotionally available, emotionally mature, who wants to grow at the same rate and wants to stick things out. Someone who doesn't run away when there's problems, someone who stays and faces them and works together. We talk about all of these things. He has witnessed a lot of the opposite, so I make it a point to sit down and talk to him about it. My other son is 25, and I've got to say, I'm very proud of him. He's an amazing young man. He just bought his first home recently with his girlfriend. He's got the greatest girlfriend in the world, and I could not have asked for more. And he's truly a good partner to her. He was a good boyfriend who transitioned into being a great partner. And it makes my heart so happy to see this, because this is my goal in life, is to raise great children who make a difference in the world. And I see them doing that. And I see my boys wanting to be great partners. And that's makes me feel like I've done a really good job in something. Nobody can take that away from me. And I love that.
I love that too. I think it's really important to, at least I know with my sons, I always ask them, what are you feeling? I want to hear all that they have to share, everything, any time of day or night. And I always want to go deep, as long as they're interested, to have that emotional relationship, that emotional bond. Because I know for me, when I talk things out and get them off my chest, I mean, it took me, I remember being like under 10, and I would hold everything in. And then at some point under 10, I learned through my parents making a safe space that how much better I felt by sharing and talking things out. And I think there's tremendous value in that. And it's not just for daughters. So I think it is for sons too. So I really do provide that space. My husband and I provide that space for them. And thank God they're open and they share. And I think that we just do the best that we can do to raise, if we're talking about this article about embarrassing to have a boyfriend, and our role as women raising men who will be boyfriends, what is our role as moms? And then also, what is our desire as women looking for men?
Well, emotional depth would be nice.
Yeah.
But there's also that the traditional, like the masculinity providing and protecting, which is still needed, but it looks different.
Yes.
And I think that's some of the evolution you talk about that men have to make, is how to evolve from provision was I go out and work and I make all the money, and that's and I make sure everyone's safe every day. Those things are still important and in a partner and a male partner. But it looks different now, because really provision is about it's the emotional provision. It's not as much the financial provision, but that's important too, right? They're bringing security in that way. And then the protection, because, the masculine feminine polarities work in conjunction with each other. They're very important. And so
when a man protects, provides, and gives you the emotional support, as a woman, we open up so much. And our relationships, we follow suit, and our relationships are beautiful and wonderful. It's when those roles get confused that things tend to fall apart.
Yes. So what do you think women can do who are looking for a boyfriend, a lifelong partner? What do you think they can do to help best set themselves up for that?
I think that's a great story for you to talk about,
Yes,
Jen.
I was going to say, you tell us, because you had a very different experience going into your marriage than Lisa and I did. And I think it's relevant for today.
It's very relevant.
So I think there's a big difference. I've always been a relationship girl. I've had boyfriends since I was 14. I love relationships. They've all lasted between 2 and 4 years. And then when the time came where I realized I wanted to get married and I was looking for a husband, it was a very, very different mindset than just falling sort of into being with a boyfriend. It was a different way of thinking, because when I went into a marriage, I knew that to the best of my ability, I wanted to know that this was somebody I wanted to be with forever and not get divorced. I mean, I think things happen in marriages, and you can't know that all. You don't know everything. Nobody has a crystal ball. But I wanted to go into the marriage knowing that this was a lifelong commitment for me. So I asked myself, I said, and I remember exactly where I was walking on a street going east on the Upper East Side of New York City. And because I talked to myself a lot, I said, Jan, if nothing changed from this point forward, if nothing got any better, any worse, it was exactly as is, would this man, who's now my amazing husband, would it be enough for you? And the answer for me had to be yes. And it was yes. And I also asked myself, I said, if I were stranded on you play these games with yourself. If I were stranded on a deserted island and there was nobody else and I never saw anybody else for the rest of my life, would this person be enough? Mm-hmm. And the answer for me had to be yes. And as long as I could answer yes without any doubt, then I think the rest of it just becomes a leap of faith. And I think a leap of faith for both sides. As a woman, we can make our own money. We can have our own children. We really don't need a man. And so, except if you want one, right? Which I did and I do. And I said, when I meet that person, I want to feel that this person elevates my life. But just as importantly, I want to feel and know that I'm elevating his life.
Exactly.
You both have to feel like you hit the jackpot, won a prize, and you both feel elevated by each other. And that takes some thought, and that takes some, in my opinion, honest reflection, and not being afraid to make decisions if it's not 100% right for you. If it doesn't feel right in the heart, you've got to know when to walk away. I mean, I had to walk away from a 4-year relationship, but you have to know and trust yourself.
I think that's amazing. I did not go into my relationship and marriage with that same mindset. I thought, I love this person. We've been together for a very long time. And I remember even after, just like, oh, we've been together. We love each other. Got married for the right reasons. But I was not prepared I didn't know myself well enough to know what I really needed and wanted in a partner. I had really no idea. So I was just making this person who I loved work. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking specifically in my head after I got married was marriage is about compromise. It came from somewhere. Someone must have said that to me growing up or in my young adulthood. And I said, okay, it's about compromise. But it took me many, many years because I was married to realize I was kind of the only one really compromising. Mm. And that's a self-sacrificial way that many women, I'm not special because I've heard that story from so many women of our generation. It is a relationship killer over time. Yeah. Because when you know who you are and you know what you want and you know what you need and you stand on that, mm-hmm. you might end up some relationships ending, like your 4-year relationship probably ended because it wasn't for you, but you will end up bringing in the relationship that meets all of those things. And I did not do that. I did not have this, and I didn't have this. I didn't know what I didn't know. And I think women now know this. They know this now. They've learned from us and from our forebears. So
there's been
you knew it somehow.
Yeah. But there's been a definite shift.
Yes.
There's been a shift where things we would settle for previously, we are not settling for anymore.
Yes.
And we know that we can do all these things and provide all these things. So if a man isn't going to rise to our level, then that's not going to work. And it used to be you stay and you work it out. You work it out no matter what, because that's what you're supposed to do.
Yes. And
I love that we're seeing that is not the normal anymore. I love that women are standing up, rising up, and saying, not okay.
And being single doesn't have the same stigma.
Especially today, it doesn't with Shantae's article.
That's a huge shift where, women who were single into 30s, 40s, however long, unpartnered in some way, were told that there must be something wrong with you if you're single.
Yeah. Well, there's all sorts of studies now that say that men need relationships more than women, and that women do better when they're not in relationship, and men do better when they are. And this isn't talking marriage or, your amazing situation. This is talking about just in general. And I think this is why, because we can do it all. We are doing it all. We're rising. We're no longer the stay-at-home moms, cooks, chefs, maids, taking care of everything, taking on all the emotional toll. We want a partner now. We want a real partner. And until that happens, it's not going to work.
Yeah. Yes. And I think that we want men to come along with us. I do.
Yes, absolutely.
I do.
Absolutely.
It's not to say that, we want men to come along. We have men in our lives. And I'm very optimistic about this. I tend to be an optimistic person, but I think it's like things always have to get worse before they can get better. And if this is the moment where the gender things kind of fall apart to come back in a new way, I feel very optimistic about it. I'd like to be optimistic for myself to, have a partner in later in life, but definitely for my kids.
I definitely think our kids, our girls, they're not going to struggle with a lot of the same things we've struggled with, because we're raising them differently and they have seen the things we've been through. Yes. And I love that they're more independent and they know what they want, where we just did what we were told.
Yeah, just kind of passively, like this seemed like the right thing to do.
So if you could think about one takeaway that you want our audience to remember from today's topic, what would that be?
Sometimes love is not enough. I used to think it was. For a long time, I thought it was. But if someone isn't willing to grow with you and go deep and do the deep things, love is not enough. And sometimes you need to just move on and let that go until the right thing comes along.
Gosh, I'll go back to, I think for men also really want to be understood, because you brought up previously masculinity, and they have been served their own version of a lie, just like we have. And what masculinity is not vulnerability, and masculinity is not keep your emotions in check and all of those things. And there's I think a broadened view of masculinity that we are seeing that needs to be embraced. And I want men to know that, like, to be understood, you have to also understand. So I encourage women to be willing to listen to men and understand them, so that you can then also be understood. That's something personally I've been kind of working on, is understanding the viewpoints, because they have their own versions of the things society has laid on them, just like we have. Mm-hmm. And I believe in their potential to be better for all of us.
I'd like people to remember to know that it's okay to want what you want. Be really clear on what it is you're looking for and what it is you want. Do not judge yourself. It's easy to do it. I did it. I remember thinking, like, gosh, what's wrong with me? This would be fine for somebody else. But it just didn't feel right to me. And I got to a certain point where I was like, you know what? Good. Let it be fine for somebody else. This isn't fine for me. And certain things that are fine for me are not fine for somebody else. And that's okay. And that's really what makes the world go round. So trust that you know what's right for you. Be really clear about what you want and hold true to that. And I think most importantly is lean into the feeling of what you want it to feel like when you are with this person. How do you feel? And that's when you'll know, when you meet somebody who is a vibrational match for that which you desire, that's when you'll know this is the right person for you. And it's such a beautiful thing. You know, I didn't know what my husband was going to look like, what his name was going to be, how tall he was going to be, what he was going to do, anything. But I knew the feeling. And that's why 10 steps into our first date, I didn't tell him this, but I told myself, I said, this is the guy. And I never said that about anybody I was with. I knew it. And it was because I lived in the feeling. And in fact, if you follow people who teach manifesting, whatever it is you want to manifest, they'll talk to you about live in the feeling of that which you want to manifest. And I didn't even know that at the time. I just knew that the feeling is where all of our heart's desire lives. And trust yourself, and it's okay to want what you want. It's good.
That's our deep dive for today's Charleston Chicks. Share your stories, your standards, and your lessons learned. DM or tag us with ideas for next week's show. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.